friends, Tiffany Lesnick here with Live Free Legal, domestic violence attorney and survivor. Today's video is not easy to make, but it's necessary. A tragic homicide-suicide in Fairfax County has left a family devastated and children forever impacted. And like so many cases we see across the country, people are asking the same question: how did this happen? But as someone who works with women in high conflict and abusive relationships every single day, I want to ask a different question. Why didn't the system recognize the warning signs sooner? Because when you look at cases like this, not emotionally, but legally and strategically, there are patterns, there are risk factors, and there are moments where interventions could have made a difference. I want to be very clear about something up front. This is not about assigning blame to one person or speculating about facts that are still unfolding. This is about understanding patterns we see in family law cases every day and how those patterns can escalate when they're not taken seriously. In the Fairfax case, former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax brutally shot and killed his wife and then turned the gun on himself and committed suicide in Annandale, Virginia on April 16th, 2026. No one is insulated from domestic violence. It happens in families of all strata, whether you're wealthy or you're poor. It affects everyone. What we understand is that the parties were in the midst of a divorce process. There were legal proceedings happening. There were interactions between the parties, and critically, there was continued proximity. They were living in the same home. And that's where I want to pause, because Virginia is one of several states that allows what's called in-home separation, meaning a couple can legally be separated while living under the same roof for a required period of time before they can finalize a divorce. On paper, that may sound practical, and some people may need that for financial reasons. But in reality, in high conflict or abusive situations, it can be incredibly dangerous. When you require or even allow two people who are divorcing to continue living together, you are creating a situation where, one, emotions are already escalated, two, control is being threatened, three, legal pressure is building. And the person who is losing power often feels resentment, potential financial stress, and the fear of losing access to children and assets. And in this particular case, in the Fairfax case, the judge had already put an order in place that was going to force a Justin Fairfax to leave the residence, and he had already given the wife full custody of the children. That is a very dangerous situation when you have an abuser living in the home and you're having the abuser lose that much power. This is not a neutral environment, right? This becomes a pressure cooker situation. And in cases involving domestic abuse or coercive control, separation is not when things calm down. Separation is when things escalate. Because for an abuser, separation represents a loss of control. And in fact, separation is the most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship. Because when control is threatened, behavior can become unpredictable and sometimes dangerous. Now, I want to talk about something I have seen repeatedly in my cases, and this is based on experience, not speculation. While no one can predict propensity for violence with certainty, there are certain combinations of factors that can significantly increase the risk of lethality. And the combination I want you to pay attention to is this: substance abuse, domestic abuse, and mental health instability. So let's break that down. So number one, domestic abuse. We're not just talking about physical violence. We're talking about patterns of control, intimidation, emotional manipulation, isolation. These patterns tell us how someone handles power and conflict. Number 2, mental health concerns. And this is not about stigmatizing mental health, but when someone is untreated, escalating, experiencing instability, refusing to seek mental health treatment, refusing to take medication if it's necessary, and they're already in a high conflict situation, their ability to regulate emotions can be severely compromised. And their ability to make rational decisions is also severely compromised. So let's talk about number 3, substance abuse. Substance abuse lowers inhibition and it increases impulsivity. It removes the buffer that might otherwise stop someone from acting on anger or desperation. And it also increases depression. So the reality is that each one of these factors is concerning, but together they can be a very dangerous combination. When you combine those 3 factors with a pending divorce, legal stress, continued proximity like in-home separation or having a husband and wife continue to live together, you have a situation that deserves very serious attention from the court. And one of the biggest challenges in family court is this. Judges are often making decisions based on what has already happened, not what could happen. Courts are proactive rather than reactive. So we hear things like there's no recent physical violence, they've been coexisting, there's no immediate threat, but what's most often missed is the pattern and more importantly, the trajectory. Because courts are not always equipped to fully assess escalation, coercive control, or the impact of combined risk factors. And when that happens, dangerous situations can be seriously underestimated. If you are watching this and you are in a high conflict or abusive situation, I want you to hear this clearly. You do not need to prove that someone is capable of the worst outcome, but you do need to document the pattern that leads there. That means documenting his behavior consistently, tracking substance use if it's relevant. This is the one area where my clients track the least amount of evidence. If he is using alcohol or other substances, make sure you're taking pictures. Take pictures of the cabinet where his alcohol is stored. Take pictures of the empty bottles. Take pictures of the trash can or the recycling bin. Take pictures of the receipts or keep copies of the bank statements showing charges at the ABC store or the beer distributor or wherever he buys his alcohol. You want to show a pattern of continued substance use. Note, journal, calendar, escalation over time. Use audio recordings if that's allowed or permitted in your state. Use witnesses to show escalation of his behavior. Because communicating concerns in a clear, factual way is going to help you get the courts to respond to your evidence. Your job is to translate what you're experiencing into something the court can actually see and understand. And because this is so important, I want to do something for you. This week in the description, I am offering a free lethality assessment and a safety planning resource to women in this community. This is not legal advice. This is about helping you identify risk factors, understand warning signs, and begin thinking through a safety plan. Because safety planning is not just for when things are at their worst, it's when you recognize the pattern early. So check out the description below in order to get your free lethality assessment and free safety planning guide for women going through abuse and separation. And if you're sitting here thinking, I see the pattern, but I don't know how to prove it in court, that's exactly why I created my 12-week faith-based legal education intensive, Equipped to Stand. This is a structured program where I walk women through how courts actually evaluate evidence, how to document abuse and escalation in a way that matters, and how to build a strong, organized case, and how to communicate strategically, not emotionally, in high conflict situations. This is legal education and case preparation tools, not legal representation. But it gives you the clarity and structure that so many women are missing when they walk into court or are going through the legal process. The next group is starting soon and space is limited. So if you want to be a part, join the wait list below so you can get early access when registration opens. So I want to leave you with this. God is not a God of confusion. If something feels unsafe, if something feels off, if you are constantly trying to explain away behavior that doesn't sit right, pay attention. Scripture tells us in 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." You are allowed to think clearly, you are allowed to see patterns, and you are allowed to protect yourself and your children. Join me again next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next webcast. We have one every week, 7 Eastern Standard Time, right here at Live Free Legal. Please give us a thumbs up, like us, and subscribe. And share this video with another woman who needs to hear it. God bless.